And good evening, everybody. Welcome to Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land, a part of the Fanatical Elves Network, a subsidiary of Fans First Sports Network. I'm Ethan Greenberg, and alongside of me is my co-host, Mike Rasinski. Mike, how are you doing this evening?
Doing good. It's wet over here, but feeling a lot better after that Guardians win today.
Yeah, I know. It was much needed. It was definitely much needed. I kind of was like ready to sacrifice them to the sports gods today because, this is maybe a little bit out of your purview, but they had the big Europa Cup final today. And my dad's team, our team, Tottenham Hotspur, was playing Manchester United. And the winner of that, both of them have had horrific seasons in the English Premier League. It's 20 teams. The bottom three get relegated.
Okay.
So out of 20 teams, Manchester United is 16th in the table. Tottenham is 17th with one game left to go in the season. Like, they're not getting relegated, but that's how bad of a season it has been for both clubs. Yet somehow they managed to make it to this Europa final. Now, this is kind of like, and I heard Emmett Golden on ESPN Cleveland Next Level. He's become a huge Tottenham fan. So he was talking about and explaining that, like the top level competition throughout Europe of all the club teams is the Champions League. And then there's the Europa League, where if you didn't qualify for the Champions League, like you weren't the top four in the Premier League in England and this country and that country, you were part of the Europa League. So anyway, but winning this, now Tottenham qualifies. They are in the Champions League next season, and it's a lot of money and prestige. And it's been forever since they've won any kind of a major competition. And I was sitting there, Mike, and thinking about it, and the feeling initially as I'm watching this thing was not quite the same, but because obviously I've never even been to England, but kind of along the lines of watching the Cavs win a title.
Really? I didn't know you're that big of a football fan.
I'm not nearly as big of a football fan. I guess maybe there was the emotional piece of it for like my dad, and he hasn't seen it, any kind of a title or them get any kind of a hardware since they said 2008, but I've also heard it was 40 years. It's like 41 years, I think 83, somewhere around there. So 84. So it's been a long time. And I had that moment. I called up the radio show, Emmett Golden, because he's celebrating on the air, and I've got him singing "Glory, Glory, Tottenham Hotspur" on the. So I'll take that as win. Brian Windy's a big Tottenham fan too, as well as Steve Nash.
All right. Well, is that the stadium the Browns are playing in this year too?
Yes, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Yes, that is correct. Because I think that the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, if I understand correctly, may have gotten some monies from the NFL, because every year they're hosting a game there. So it's a phenomenal facility, a building, a stadium. So
is it new? Do you know?
Yes, it is. It's new within. I'd have to look at the dates. It's less than 10 years old.
Really?
They played at White Hart Lane, and my dad finally made it back. I don't know when, but he made it back in the last season of White Hart Lane to see a Tottenham game there. So he was, blessed to be able to do that, and he's been very fortunate to go over and catch some Tottenham games and even tour the stadium and do all those kinds of cool things. So I'm a little bit jealous. But so I was ready to sacrifice the Guardians today if I had to. I was ready to sacrifice the Guardians to get some silverware.
Ethan. By the way, quick Google search. It opened in 2019. Okay. Is the third largest stadium in England, and was a multi-purpose stadium built for the NFL, like you said. And it has a retractable football
pitch. Yes, it goes up. You've got to watch this video, Mike. It's incredible what it does. It goes up underneath the surface. It's like it's crazy. It's crazy what they're able to do, because when the NFL goes there, they play on like an artificial, like a mixture type turf, not completely field turf, but some kind of a hybrid. I'm not certain. But then they've got the grass pitch that goes up underneath. It's amazing. I've seen the video and it was pretty crazy.
I feel like we should go see it live.
I do think, we talked about that when the schedule came out. Like, where should we go? Where do we need to go to watch to see a game? London, it is.
We're just gonna wish this into existence. Let's make it happen.
I think we should. I might have to start panhandling, Mike.
Well, just get your busker skills ready. I don't know. Do you play any instruments? You can put Jacob out there. I know he's a trumpet player.
He is. Maybe he could play the trumpet. And what we could do is, the episode, did you ever watch SpongeBob? Or did the kids watch SpongeBob?
Oh, yeah.
Where they walk around with a slide whistle, and Squidward gets into it, and he's walking behind the people, and he's messing with the people. I could do that, and then they could give me money to go away. I mean, they might punch me in the face first.
Whatever works.
Okay, all right. We're gonna. But speaking of playing surfaces, and the London game, looks like Mayor Bibb is kind of waving the white flag, in that battle over the new stadium and the Browns. Did you catch any of that? I know you've been extremely busy. But did you see any of that?
Yeah, so here's my question to you over this whole thing. It sounds like the Haslam's, they're gonna build where they want to build, and they're not gonna take any pressure from anybody. It helps that I think they have a lot of friends in Columbus, in the state legislature. But my question for this, if they're gonna spend all this money and build where they want to build outside of Cleveland, the city, the county, the state don't have to give them any money. And then what are they going to do? So I don't feel like they have a lot of leverage to ask the community to pay up for their half of the stadium. But it sounds like...
I think you're right, Mike. And I think that was the retort, the letter from Chris Ronayne. He's like the chief executive officer for the county, Cuyahoga County. And once the Haslams basically said, whatever they've been going back and forth with Nasty Grams, right?
Yep.
And he puts something out. They say this is completely wrong. And basically you can go kick rocks. We can do this, whether you're in or not, we're going to do this, and he's like, oh, really? So you admit you can do this without the money of the county, blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. But I think he's cutting off his nose to spite his face.
You're talking about
the county
or the county? The county. Okay.
And Mayor Bibb, because they want money from the Haslams for the demolition of the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
They want money to redevelop the lakefront. If they don't play their cards right, they're going to end up with nothing and like it. I mean, the Haslams, maybe. I'm just saying.
I mean, I think the money that the state is going to give the Browns, I know it's supposed to be paid back in bonds. Give that to the city of Cleveland instead to redevelop that lakefront area. And then if the Haslams want to build in Brook Park, let them fund the whole thing. Nothing's stopping them.
No, you're right.
I like that play.
I guess the thing is, like, all right, if they're going to spend all the money on it, think of it as any other business that comes in or manufacture. You give them tax breaks or this or that or the other, because it's a symbiotic relationship. It benefits both parties. And I could see both sides of it. I think that it's one of those things where, okay, you don't want to get them to get any funds like the Haslams. You're like, you got the money, you go do it. Well, then how should you benefit from X, Y, and Z? I guess would be the counter argument.
My point is, I don't think the Browns have any leverage, though, if the state and the county say no. Well, I mean, the only leverage they have is the move. And are they willing to drop that nuclear option of moving out of Northeast Ohio?
Well, and that's where the Modell law comes in.
Yeah.
And I think that would keep them in the state. And I don't think they want to do that. And I do believe they're going to get state money. Bottom line, they're going to get, in some form or fashion, they're going to end up working something out. And then Mayor Bibb is going on with the I team. Don't you love the I team? They never go away. It's beautiful, And he's basically saying, I've got more important things, or we've got more important things to deal with than the Cleveland Browns. But he's also saying at the same time, we don't want to go away empty-handed. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but it really sounded like that report that came out was him saying, all right, we've got nothing. well, let's figure this out, make the best for everybody kind of a thing, which I think is really the smart move to do. You don't want to, like, if you were in line to get X amount of redevelopment on the lakefront or contributions to demolish the stadium, which the city owns, then you don't want to do that. And think of that. How much money does it cost to demolish the stadium?
Yeah, and where are they going to get that money from? That's a great question.
So what they wanted, they want a check from the Haslams. It all comes down to money. At the
so
end
are the Haslams going to give it to them?
See, I think this is pure speculation and conjecture. I would guess that they're going to do something. I think that they will somehow contribute to what needs to be done down there. It's always, you hate to see this kind of contentious relationship that develops, but I guess that's what happens, and such.
Yeah, well, when you put out a team that was 3-14 last year and has had no hope for the last 20 years, that's what you're going to get.
Right. And that, you know what? That brings us to another topic, the quarterback, because that move, everyone has said it, and I guess I'm going to have to get on board and believe it, that the desperation move that was made to bring in Deshaun Watson was with the idea and hopes we want to get some support behind this team and be on the right track. So when we say we are moving, we want to build this dome or do whatever, the public is going to be behind us. So with that in mind, have you heard the saying that if you have two quarterbacks, you have none?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you have?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yep. What do you have when you have four quarterbacks?
None. 2 times 0, I guess. I don't know. 4 times 0.
Yeah. This is
well, and think about this too. Let's say our 3rd round draft pick and our 5th round gamble don't work out. Okay. And nobody's really counting them on working out. That's why we're drafting in the 3rd and 5th round.
Yes.
And then we go into next year, which is supposed to be a quarterback rich class. And everybody's saying we're in good position to get one of those quarterbacks. We have 2 first round picks. They should be fairly high. We can trade them to move up to wherever we need to move up to draft them. So that means we'll have spent 4 draft picks to get a rookie quarterback that still may or may not be good.
Yeah, that is, it's a harsh reality. And really the ultimate best thing that could happen is this. And tell me if you agree. I think, again, other people have said this, and I've sat there and listened to all these different things. And really the best case scenario is that one of the 2 rookie quarterbacks that we drafted this year, either Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders, ultimately takes the charge and grabs a hold of the starting job, not just in the short term, but they turn out to be a long-term solution. Thereby, you have 2 first-round picks, wherever they are, to draft additional talent to replace guys who are past their prime, retiring, whatever it is, get the cream of the crop. That's the best case scenario.
But you're on the Brock Purdy bandwagon, where we take a lotto ticket and one of these lower round draft picks works out. So
I think so, yeah.
I mean, that would be amazing. And I think everybody that drafts a quarterback in the 3rd round or later is hoping that too. But that means, when do you start one of the rookies this year? Because you have to find out if they're good or not, which means you have to play them, which means Joe Flacco should not get any playing time this year. You got to figure out if Kenny Pickett is a great reclamation project, which I don't think he will be. And then you got 2 other rookie quarterbacks you have to evaluate to see if you need to spend 2 first-round picks next year on a quarterback or not. Which means at some point these guys have to play. So I think, sadly, I think Flacco's not going to get much playing time if that's going to be their game plan. Then they have to let these guys play in real games to figure out.
Right. And I think that they went at this and they said, okay, we've got to get a healthy quarterback in the room. So they said, let's trade DTR. We know he stinks. Mm-hmm. Okay. Hey, we can get Kenny Pickett. No problem. All right, great. We gave up DTR and a 5th round pick. Bring in Pickett. Wonderful. He's actually won a few games. He's not great, but he's not horrible. He's a former first-round pick. They're thinking reclamation project. Time keeps on ticking. There was the thought about a possible Kirk Cousins release in Atlanta. Well, that didn't happen. So they said, oh, crap. We should try and get somebody else in here. We don't know what's going to happen in the draft. We might be looking at one quarterback. Possibly we could draft two, but who knows? Let's bring Joe Flacco back. Boom, bring him back. All right. Here's the deal, whether, and stop me if you already know all these things. Kenny Pickett, we did not pick up his fifth-year option. He's on a one-year deal. If he plays well a la Sam Darnold, a reclamation project, we can't afford him next year. Joe Flacco probably has 1 year left. So what I would like to see, so I guess here's the thing. If either Pickett or Flacco are playing and they're winning, or they look really good in the preseason, it's possible they might dump one of them. We don't know. Because you're not going to be able to throw them to the waiver wire and to try to get them to the practice squad. They have to agree to come to the practice squad if they clear through waivers. And they can go anywhere at that point. So I don't think they're going to give up on Gabriel or Sanders. And the question is Pickett or Flacco. I think Pickett has a higher trade value at the end of the day. I'm baffled by that acquisition. And I think that having drafted two quarterbacks that he might be expendable. If one of those guys is winning, then you're right. We're in a pickle.
Here the scenario, the worst case scenario, I guess, would be Pickett starts the season, goes 4-0. We have a very tough start to the season, but we go 4-0 somehow. And now his trade value is huge, is through the roof. Do you trade him to see what you have now in your rookies and get maybe a second-round pick for a Pickett, a third-round pick maybe? Or do you ride it with Pickett, not evaluate your rookies, and now, like you said, you can't afford them next year, so it was kind of a way maybe make the playoffs and get knocked out in the first round?
Well, I guess that's where we don't trust the coaches at all, because they have to evaluate these guys in practice. And that's a whole other story. Now, you talked about other worst case scenarios. You know what the worstest case scenario is? And I'm making up words. So your favorite writer, Mary Kay Cabot, there was a post on Instagram that got from Deshaun, and he's throwing the ball. And there's like some coffee cup in the background about something, such and such days until, and you can't see the rest of it. And he's talking, I don't know, some motivational speech on there. Anyway, so it gets picked up. A fellow Golden Flash, Brad Stainbrook, who does Browns reporting. He was at ESPN Cleveland, I think, as an intern. He reposts this thing. Then Mary Kay Cabot's article comes out and says, yeah, he's actually been throwing with Jerry Jeudy and David Bell, and the boot's been off for quite a bit. But there's no actual other reporting to say he's like way ahead of schedule, he's on schedule. And so it just turned into the biggest poop show over the past couple of days with people and their conjecture about possibly Watson being somehow available and deemed physically able to play. What do you do?
Well, but that's easy. You bench him.
You can't. I don't think I could send him to waivers, right?
Could you put him on the practice squad?
See, you have to bench him, or you have to waive him, and then he's got to clear waivers. I think. I'm
pretty sure he'll clear waivers. Nobody's gonna.
Not at that price.
Yeah,
but it's possible then maybe he could sign somewhere for cheap, and then it's like the Kirk Cousins things. If they waive him, Atlanta, he can go sign for the vet minimum. We're still responsible for all that plus the dead cap. The other problem I have, and no one seems to want, it seems like people are saying it, but they're not. We've got this giant ass insurance policy the Browns do. And if he is physically unable to play next season, we get a salary cap relief of about $40 million not this season, but next season, kind of based upon this year, him not being able to play. I want that guy as far away from Cleveland as possible. How do we get? I just got to ask, as a journalist, where's the line between covering something and writing something for the sake of writing something?
Yeah. I guess it's like Fox News. You write things to get people angry, or it's going to be a lightning rod. And Deshaun Watson's always a lightning rod and will get people to read stories, even though there's really no news to report.
Right. And I guess, how would you handle it? If you were let's say you were at the Plain Dealer, and you were covering the Browns and had this beat, and let's just say the Browns were your beat. You've been there a long time. This whole Deshaun Watson thing is going on. What would you tell your editors if they're like, you need to have X amount of stories, or you need to do this, you need to do that? How do you think you'd handle that?
Well, I think if there was other information, so if the whole thing was based on this tweet, where it's just a video or a picture of him throwing, and I didn't read this article, if that's all it was, that's not a news story. But if you use that to then reach out to Deshaun or reach out to the Browns to get more info, hey, how is he progressing? Hey, that's pretty amazing. It's 5 months since his surgery. Should he be throwing now? Hey, I didn't realize that we have receivers down there working with him. Is this on the books or off the books that they're doing this? You need to follow it up with those type of questions to make it a news story.
Okay, so I'm not crazy. I think we got trained at the same college here and learned some valuable lessons in journalism, because I feel like there was nothing to actually back it up. Now, I will say he has been in the facility, even when they've talked to the rookie quarterbacks, Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, at various times have talked about everybody being in the quarterback room, the team meetings, including Deshaun. And that's fine. That's all well and good. I think that he's still a part of the team, but again, it boggles my mind how you can just write these articles with little to no additional information to make it make sense or to temper people from all the crazy responses.
Yeah. And I the world of journalism right now too is just, you get things out as fast as you can. So I'm sure that had something to play with it too. Oh, here's a tidbit of information. I got to blast it out before somebody scoops me, as opposed to going a little more in depth,
Yeah. And I just don't get it. I really don't. At some point, is journalism, they say journalism is dead, right? And I or at least print journalism. And I sort of tend to agree to an extent. But to the extent it is dead, and you're not dealing with the newspaper where you have to get an article out, to the deadline so they could get it to make it to press. Shouldn't you have more time to investigate these things? I really loathe the fact that, and it's not just a Mary Kay Cabot, I loathe that people start flying off the handles with these stories without really going into getting further information so that the readers have a better base of knowledge.
Yeah. Oh man, we could do a whole 3-hour show on the state of journalism and how it's affected the society and where we're going. Yeah. But I'd rather talk about sports.
I'd rather talk about sports too. So with that in mind, let's take a brief time out and get a word from our sponsors. You are tuned in to Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land here on the Fanatical Elves Network, a part of Fans First Sports Network. And welcome back, everybody, to Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land here on the Fanatical Elves Network. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Mike, so moving on from the craziness in Berea or Diaberea, I don't know what it is. I'm just going to make up stuff at this point. The Cavs.
Yeah.
It's been a week. How are you feeling now, a week removed from the disappointment of the end of the season for the Cavs?
You know what? I'm still angry, and I'm angry with the NBA.
Okay.
And I'll explain why. I have a whole list of things here that I think we need to talk about. But the first one is I want to talk about the refs and how the game's officiated. Because I have a few thoughts on this. And everybody says, the refs don't cost the series or the game. You got to play through all that. But I think there's a little bit of BS in that. For one, why are playoff games officiated different than regular season games? They say they let them play through a lot of fouls. You just got to be tougher. There's not the refs swallow their whistles. Well, why? I mean, yeah, in baseball, you don't change the strike zone, in the playoffs, although extra innings are different. But you shouldn't change the rules. If you build a team to play one way in the regular season, the same rules should happen in the playoffs. All right, so that's number one. Number two is because the game is officiated differently, did that lead to the injuries that occurred in game one? Because Mobley, when he had no spot to land, that was not even called a foul.
Right.
When Hunter got demolished going up, how that was not called a foul, I have no idea. And when players are getting away with that, they're going to continue to try to do more and more, which changes how the game is played. Then you have game 4, where it finally reaches an apex, and you got that knucklehead from Indiana who takes a cheap shot on Hunter and gets ejected. And did you see how game 4 was then officiated after the ejection? There were whistles every 2 seconds as the refs were trying to calm the temperature of that game. But at that point, it's too late. But again, they're changing in the game how the game is played, because they're not now officiating how they have in games 1 through 3.
Bingo.
You can't take it back. And then the huge elephant in the room, game 2, those blown calls where the official NBA 2-minute report said there was 2 lane violations that cost the Cavs 4 points. And that's the game right there. I know they had an awful 54 seconds. But when you blow 2 blatant calls like that, how?
Oh yeah.
How? It's and then the series is 1-1. Completely different than you go down 0-2 and then you go on the road.
Exactly. Oh, I am with you 100%. Let me ask you this. Pardon me. This is a kind of a sidebar about how much percent you can be with somebody. Can you be with somebody? Is it fair to say you're with somebody like, oh, I agree 1,000%? Can you really be 1,000% when 100% is the whole?
Yeah, I don't think you can. It's like the saying, I couldn't care less. I think
the wrong way of saying it is I could care less.
I could care less. That's right. Yes.
You need to say I couldn't care less.
Right. You're right. I could care less.
You could? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm with you.
I'm in complete agreement with you about the officiating, starting that in game 1. And it definitely changed the way the series played out. The fact that they even reviewed that play and then still didn't call the foul. How is it that Hunter ends up on the floor? He got pushed in the midsection. Jared Allen on a prior play got demolished, pushed in the back.
That's right.
Mobley, Turner ends up, I believe it was Turner ends up in his landing space, which should be a flagrant foul.
Yep.
I mean, how are these things not being called? So even game 1 changed because of the officiating. Now, I will say this. Cavs, we lived by the 3. We died by the 3. We had untimely injuries. And then Indiana played way over its head and shot an ungodly rate that they never shot throughout the season. How do you not? Now, granted, they were in the lane early. How do you not box out? Yeah. What is the deal here? So I agree with you on all of your points. And I do agree that you need to officiate the playoffs the same way you officiated every other single game during the season. To suddenly change is a load of bull. It is an absolute load of bull because you can't be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde here. It's not right. And I don't know. The NBA needs to fix that. In fact, my thought is, you talked about baseball playoffs. They add extra umps. in the field, like down the line and stuff. So whereas you're normally talking about what, your first base umpire, your third base umpire, home plate, and then you've got someone in like center, right? Or down in short.
Second base, yeah.
Right. They add 2 other umps during the playoffs. They need to add an official on the floor to see those types of plays and make those calls.
That's a great idea. I agree with that. Why would you not?
Yeah, I don't get it. What is wrong? It's the same logic or lack thereof where the NFL won't use like a quote unquote sky judge who could be up in the box and whistling down, say, you missed this completely.
Because that's all people want is a fair game. That's it.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's not going to change. In theory, it's not going to change our guys missing wide ass open shots or letting them have wide ass open shots. Yes. And Mike, thank you for joining the show. We talked a little Spurs earlier here. Yeah, it was an amazing day for the boys in Lily White. So the Cavs. So you've had a chance to sit back from it a week. What's the next logical move for the Cavs? That's been the big talk. What are they going to do now with this roster and their limited and potentially limited options?
Yeah, so I do want to hit on one extra point.
Yeah, go ahead.
3-point shooting, and I looked this up real quick before the show. So their season they shot 38% from behind the arc. Here are their stats, games 1 through 5 on threes: 26%, 40%, 30%, 26%, 24%. So only one out of 5 games that they shoot above their season average. So,
right.
And anyways, that was, and I do wonder though how the game being officiated differently affected how they took shots. You could tell their ball movement was not as crisp or great, and I do wonder how that affected.
Yeah, I also wonder, and I may have gone a little bit out of order here, but and I'm skipping ahead, but do you think Kenny Atkinson needs to change his approach next season to how many? I understand we were blowing teams out, so there's no need to play a guy 40 plus minutes. But at the same time, to me, it looked like they were spent. They were gassed.
Well, and here's my problem with what Atkinson did. He coached one way in the regular season and he coached a different way in the playoffs. And I'm not talking about different sets and stuff, but with player rotation.
Yeah.
He used the bench a lot more in the regular season, and it seems like he lost faith in them in the playoffs.
Oh, he absolutely did.
I don't understand why, because the starters were not performing up to par. That's when I think he should have gone to the bench more, because the little tidbits of playing time that we saw from some of those guys, they didn't do bad. They did just fine. Oh shoot! What's our backup point guard?
Rome was awful. Or are you talking about Merrill? Talking about Merrill?
Not Merrill. Porter. He seemed like he did fine, and
at least he would have had some gas in the tank at the end of that game too.
Yeah,
he had energy, and then Sam Merrill to suddenly have a neck injury right before Game 5. I jokingly said, "What was he too busy looking at the scoreboard? What happened?"
I know, right? That's a great question. And then you have Mitchell, who is scoring 40 points a game, but that's not his game either.
We don't need him to do that. We don't want him to be doing that. We want him to be in the maybe 25 to 30 and gobbling up assists and setting up other players.
Yeah. Now, part of it was probably because nobody else could make a shot and he had to.
Yeah.
But the other part is Atkinson should have been designing plays where Mitchell was more of the passer and setting up other players to give them higher quality looks instead of just driving to the lane every time. So
right. And they should run more through Mobley is what they're saying.
Absolutely. That's the cost them in Game 5. The bigs were doing a great job, and then they just gave up on them in the second half. That's how we got the 19-point lead.
It was absolutely crazy. And here's one of the popular takes here. So
if we are, I think that leads back to your question is what do we do then next year? So one thought is you don't do anything. We saw the growth from last year to this year, at least in the regular season. They really didn't do much except get a new coach. And nobody thought we were going to have the 64-win season.
No.
And can another season of doing nothing, maybe you learn from your mistakes, you gel again together, or gel more together in the offseason, and you learn now how to overcome adversity in the playoffs. Thought two is you make a major move, which would be, well, there's two ways you can go with this. I think there's been talk about, do you try to get Giannis and the Greek Freak by trading like Mobley for him? That's a huge gamble. I would rather go like, let's maybe think about getting rid of Garland, but who's going to take him on a max contract?
And therein lies some of the problems. And being in the second apron, in fact, they need to man up and be physical. Okay, so being physical and being mentally tough are two different things. I think that they have a little bit of both. There's a lack of mental toughness for some of those guys. Like, I hate to say it, I like Jared Allen, but he was putrid.
Well, in game 5 he was.
And then
game whatever the game
but it's been a kind of sort of a pattern. He kind of, they got beat up in that series 2 years ago against the Knicks. He says the lights were too bright.
Yeah, I mean,
all right, I'll move past.
I'm over that.
Right. Then last year he has the rib injury and he chooses not to get an injection, right? And that's all fair, right? But then to come out this year and just kind of shrink in the moment.
Did he though? I'm trying to look up his stats. He had some good stats though. I don't think
look at his rebounding games in the playoffs in that series. It was awful. Game 4 was terrible for everybody. But look at game 5. He didn't do jack squat in game 5 when they needed him most. And he doesn't have, it's kind of to a flaw. He's almost too nice. You know what I mean? And you can't make somebody be a mean, quote unquote, and I'm using this in air quotes, violent type person.
Yeah.
You can't change that. So I don't know what you do for that. And I don't know how big of a move you could make with him. The Garland piece is he is a very good player, but the contract is an issue. And he's not going to grow 6 inches. He is what he is. Kobe Altman talked about him going into the locker room. Or, I mean, the weight room, I should say. He's got to bulk up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was just, I don't know.
I got to push back on the Allen thing a little bit.
All right, go for it. Tell me how long.
Okay, I'm just looking up his stats for the postseason here. He shot 72%, averaged 13 points a game, which is the second highest ever in the postseason. He had 17 points a game last year when he got hurt. Rebounds, 8.4 total per game. And actually last year, and looking at his stats, he averaged 13.8 rebounds per game last year. And then the dude got hurt. I mean, what can you do when you get a broken wrist?
The problem is he played 30 minutes in game 5. He had 4 rebounds. How many times did that chucklehead get switched onto Halliburton and allow him to have space and bombs away from 3? Dude, get in his face. If you get beat on the dribble, so be it. Get in his face. I was losing my mind with that kind of, and I don't know if that's from the coach or that's just, I really don't know where that came from. But that was terrible. That was absolutely horrific.
Yeah, I still, but there are other guys on the team that
it was from top to bottom. There were guys that just didn't show up and didn't play the way they had all season. Ty Jerome.
What happened there?
Yeah, I don't know. He got broken.
So can you build mental toughness? How do you get mental toughness then? Do you think could it be that we leave the team alone and they get mentally tough by learning from this year in the postseason?
It is possible. I still think you need to change a piece. Let me say that.
Okay.
I don't know if it's through a trade. It might be a minor trade. I heard Wendy talking about this potentially. That DeAndre Hunter move. I think they said it's like a $20 million salary next year.
He's actually making more than Allen.
Right. He's a tradable piece, is what they're saying. It's 1 year left on the contract. He's a tradable piece. I'm just saying, if you could trade him you have to like match salaries. That whole second apron thing is really throwing a wrench. As you and I discussed, the fact that Mobley got DPOY really messed up. Mitchell, I saw he finished 5th in MVP voting, and Mobley was 10th.
Okay.
So this is so when they do like all NBA first team, this, that, and the other, I don't know how that's going to further screw things up. Yeah. Kind of in relation to the round, play 10 yards off the receiver on 3rd and 7, you run a 3, and then when you need yards, you run a 3-yard play, so it's kind of funny like that. I mean, it was a perfect storm of terrible things happening all at once. Indiana suddenly shooting lights out, the Cavs not shooting at this percentage they shot all season, and having injuries to Hunter, Mobley, and Garland. And even to an extent, I mean, Mitchell, all at the same time. I don't know what you do for that.
I mean, we're having the same conversation we did
a
2 years ago against the Knicks, when we lost to the Knicks in 5 games. And you would have hoped they would have grown from that. But, right, people were calling them soft 2 years ago. And then last year, like, okay, well, they lost to Boston. We had injuries. Boston was the best team, obviously. But now we're back to the same conversation we had 2 years ago against the Knicks.
Yeah, we've gotten better in some areas. And Evan Mobley has continued to grow. What he needs to do in the offseason, he himself needs to continue to grow both physically, because he's got room for growth, and mentally. Look at the way Giannis was when he started in the NBA. He wasn't even as good as Mobley is now. Like, if you looked at the same put him on a timeline or a graph, and you looked at year 1, 2, 3, or whatever it is, Mobley's ahead of him. Mm-hmm. The question is, can Mobley get himself to be more of a physical presence?
Yeah. And there was a good article by Jason Lloyd that said,
okay,
as the NBA rules are shrinking the windows teams have to make a championship run, the Cavs have a 3-year window starting now. They have 3 more years before this whole second apron stuff will catch up to him. So can Mobley improve within the next 3 years, really, is the question.
Right. And that's the premise of the discussion that people are having about this. What would you trade, Mobley for Giannis straight up? And that's the question. Like, I don't know. I don't know that I'm ready to do that. I would say if there is a piece of the, as they said, sore 4 to move, I would lean toward a move on Allen or Garland. If not the 2 of them, I know they said they'd like to bring Jerome back, but
maybe he made himself cheaper, though. That could be good.
He lost himself some money there. Woof, that was terrible. But okay, let's talk about who we've got that might be able to come up and fill some void. Is Jalen Tyson a potential 3-and-D guy?
He could be. I mean, I thought he showed flashes this season. He didn't get a lot of opportunity, but if you're going to contend, you have to build with the draft picks you have.
Bingo.
You have to give him a shot next year. Maybe he replaces a Merrill, or maybe he replaces, I don't know. But yeah, absolutely.
I think he has to become a 3-and-D, and he needs to replace Okoro. He needs to replace Okoro.
Yeah.
Dean Wade's taller. Dean Wade's 6'10". We need him, and he needs to be, as Madison, talking to Madison, our former co-host here on Going Nuclear. She knows her basketball. She said he needs to believe that he belongs there, and have the confidence, because he can really make an impact. He's not a bad player. He gets injured sometimes. That's a problem. I don't know what there's going to be in free agency, but I was looking at even this year in the draft, we've got 2 picks late in the second round. middle to late, I should say. I would love to see if they got an opportunity to get somebody, a bigger body or another 3-and-D guy. One name I saw that's close that they're projecting might be near where the Cavs pick is John I. Broome from Auburn. He was amazing. He's 6'9". He will play bully ball. He can shoot it. He's tough. I like that guy if we could get a chance to get at that guy. And then there's a dude from Villanova. He's a little bit smaller, like 6'6", and I didn't catch that. I apologize. I missed the name. I lost the name, but I think they got a hit in the draft as well. It's important. Do not get me one of these guys from, I mean, no offense to Luke Travers, but I'm sick of getting, or Sagana Diop. I don't want some guy who's overseas who will never, ever see the light of day in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Don't give me that. So I don't know. Now, if you had to choose between Jerome and Merrill, who would you bring back?
I'd bring back Jerome. I think he's got more of an upside.
I think he does as well. I think so as well. All right, so I wanted to close the Cavs conversation on a positive note, Mike, because you know what? You're more positive than even I am. I know that's hard to believe, but what was your favorite part or, favorite moment of the Cavs season that, we got to see?
I'm going to say that 15-0 start, because nobody expected that. And then they just kept winning. And it was amazing. And it was pretty early in the season. You got to thinking that this could be something special. This is pretty amazing. And we were chasing 70 wins there for quite a while.
Yeah, definitely. We were chasing it for quite a while. We're 40-10. You win 80%. You're winning 80% of your games. And then they make the trade at the trade deadline to get better, to get DeAndre Hunter. And you're like, whoa. It was just down the stretch where they're like, we're taking our foot off the gas a little bit and we're trying to manage this. And I was like, that's when I started to get worried. But yeah, you're right. The 15-0 start right out of the gates was fantastic.
What about for you?
Well, for me, I could say that it was the comeback win against the Celtics. That was a big moment there. That game in February in Boston where we go down by 23 points or 22 points in the first quarter, but they never gave up and they came back and they showed Boston's weakness and they won the game. And so I think that was big. The other one I'd say is when they blew the doors off of Golden State.
Yeah, that was fun to watch.
That was just amazing. And so as a whole, though, watching Evan Mobley get better and advance his game and kind of see that unlocked, that might be the best takeaway from the season. Ultimately, we ended up in the same spot as we did last year. If you just said, by the numbers, second round, losing 4 games to 1. Okay. But I think that the team grew a lot, and especially Mobley. Let's see what the next steps are going to be. I don't know what they're going to do. So we did, speaking or talking about expectations, right, in this town. That's always a question that we have. Last year, we had no expectations for the Guardians, yet somehow they go and win 90-plus games and make it all the way to the ALCS. Emmanuel Clase has just a MVP-like, Cy Young-like season for a closer. We're losing starting pitchers right out of the gate, yet somehow we cobbled this all together under a rookie manager, and we make it all the way to the ALCS. Oh, here's an idea for Hinkle McCrinkleberry as a free agent. Oh, okay. I forgot about that guy. I'm going to look for him. I am going to look that up. No. So expectations for the Guardians, then you come into this season. You're like, okay, well, we're pretty much bringing everybody right back. We make a trade. We're like, we moved on from Josh Naylor. Bring back Carlos Santana's back. Manzardo has a chance to step up his role. We get rid of Jimenez and ultimately flip it for another pitcher, Luis Ortiz. We're thinking, okay, we knew there was going to be some injuries, some ups and downs, but the Guardians are stressing me out, Mike.
Well, I would say this is kind of another good news story right now, too. With the way, the one stat that sticks out to me is their -17 run differential, and somehow they're still 26-22. Now, the trend and how they've been playing with, I think you got a lot of stats here about how they rank, in the American League with batting average and pitching, would predict that they can't keep this up, but that should all tend to suggest that they should be under 500 right now, and they are 4 games above 500. They're sitting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 overall in the AL, but 4 of the top 6 teams in the AL are all from the AL Central, which is amazing.
It is.
So I would say that they are kind of overachieving with what they should be doing.
Yeah. Oh, I'm right there with you. I don't 1,000% agree with you. But I think
only 900% this time.
Right. There it is. No, they've hit a rough patch, and to lose 5 in a row was tough. I mean, like the losing 3 in Cincinnati was a bit frustrating because Cincinnati's a kind of a bad team, and then you go into Minnesota and
Will Benson, what the heck? Anyways, yeah, sorry, didn't mean to derail that.
No, is that I have that? I've got that. Is that a myth or is it a reality that every time we trade somebody, they ultimately come back to beat our asses?
Oh no, it's a reality, and we trade so many people. Like the odds are high it's going to happen again.
Every time we make a move, it comes back. It seemingly comes back to bite us. It may only be once, but it does come back to bite us. And like, look at Gio Urshela. He had a pretty nice career.
I know, right? And he always got the big hit against us, it seemed, especially when he played for the Yankees.
And what about Vic the Stick?
Yeah.
He still carried on after he left here. And who's the other? Yandy Diaz?
Yeah, for Tampa.
Right. Didn't we have was that a catcher, another catcher that we had? There was somebody, I can't remember. I knew there was Victor Martinez, and there was somebody else I thought who we had at some point. But neither here nor there. It's just that Will Benson thing was absolutely ridiculous that we kept pitching to the guy and throwing him up meatballs for him to hit 4 home runs in 3 games.
I know, right?
It was just ludicrous. And we've had the crazy, you talk about the run differential. We've had a few games which have tilted everything. Losing 11-1 or 13 to something, we've just gotten crushed. So it's really been a handful of games that have made the run differential probably as bad as it is. But my question is this, and you posed as well, just the sustainability factor. We split the doubleheader today. I mean, this was weird. The weather in Minnesota was horrific. What were they thinking starting that game at 7:00, or whatever time they had it scheduled to start the other night, instead of doing like Cincinnati did and moving it up another hour to try and get it in, make it official.
Yeah.
For the rain delay.
Yeah.
That makes no sense. That makes absolutely no sense. And they get the suspended game rained out yesterday. They finished that one today, and they fought back in the 9th. Credit for that. Credit for fighting back in the 9th, but Nolan Jones cannot play center field. Can we send him back to Colorado?
Yeah. I mean, I think you could probably send him down to the minors, even though he's out of options. I don't think anybody's going to claim him.
I don't think so either. His play attempting to make a diving catch in center field ultimately cost us 2 runs in the first part of the doubleheader today, which was finishing up the suspended game. I was livid at that point watching this clown. I see Santana come up, tie it in the top half of the inning, and then this clown goes out there and tries to make a diving catch and ultimately allows a run to score, gives extra bases to the hitter and who scores on a pinch hit because Will Brennan's got no arm out in right field.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. I'm losing it with Nolan Jones. Then I think at the end of the game, I don't know if a better center fielder could have made the play, but he was again making a diving attempt, which at that point you had to. On the game-winning hit that drove in the winning run against Cade Smith. So I'm a little bit perturbed with him and hope some other guys come up here in the very near future and can maybe provide a spark, because last year that seemed to be what we would do.
Yeah, our prospects just seem to keep getting hurt. DeLauder, who's supposed to be the future of right field, that we talked about, a couple months ago. hurt again. Bazana just got hurt. Burrito's hurt. Those are our top prospects. So
yeah, I don't know what you do now along the lines of injuries and people coming back. Well, first of all, I guess I want to mention Gavin Williams had a nice start today.
Mm-hmm.
Gavin Williams, he's got 4 wins. He's got 2 quality starts. He's actually got the most wins out of. He and Clase have the most wins for pitchers. Now we're going to talk starting pitchers, but to have 4 wins as a starting pitcher, he actually looked good today.
He did.
That's a positive sign, and we need to get Ben Lively back, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Well, what do you think of Ciccone, however you say his name on his
Ciccone? Slade Ciccone. I don't know. Slade Jabroni. I don't know. I mean, I guess he was all right. We'll see. I got to see a little bit more. A little bit more. Do you think that Bibee is folding under pressure?
I think it's too early to tell. Okay. Maybe it'll help if that is the case, and I don't know if he is or not. Maybe it'll help to get Bieber back. Not only because he's our ace, but it takes the spotlight off of Bibee as well. And you're right. Maybe that could be a double whammy of help.
Yeah, I really think so. That might be the biggest thing. Everybody said it. Again, this is not me with an original thought. I don't have many of those. They said, look, if they can tread water through the early part of the schedule, the season, until they can get some reinforcements, that would be a big win. That would be a big win. There's been discussion. I think it was Andre not talking about the likelihood John Kenzie gets sent down to Columbus to get.
He probably should.
Yeah, he needs to play every day. He looks like the real life Pedro Serrano out there. Every time he sees
some chicken.
Yeah, we got it. We're gonna have to sacrifice a chicken, a live one. We can't go to the Colonel.
That's right.
It's gonna have to be a live chicken because he looks lost at the plate there.
Well, and what about John Means? We should be getting him back here some point too. He is the guy we signed after he'd had Tommy John surgery, knowing we wouldn't get him till the middle of the season. I think he's like on the same timeline as Bieber.
Oh, really? I had forgotten all about that. See, you're on top of this one. I had forgotten about that. I don't know. It seems like a lot of the little things that went right last year are not going at the same clip. Our fielding isn't as good. Our relief pitching isn't as good. It's good, but it's not what it was last year. I will say this, it seems like we're getting more pitchers who are getting, I guess, quality starts. They're getting through the 6th inning. They're starting to stretch a little bit. I know people vilify and crucify Stephen Vogt for sending out a pitcher like 1 inning too long, but I mean, they've got a pitch. We burned out the bullpen last year.
Yeah. Yeah, and it should be unrealistic to think they'd have the same season this year as they had last year too. So the fact that they're still winning with the bullpen, being an average bullpen now too, I think that speaks volumes. And other teams are going to start to have injuries. We'll probably have some injuries, but we have more guys coming back, I think, or the potential of more guys coming back than other teams do. So more hope, I would say, in the future.
Well, look, Lane Thomas is in Columbus. He's making doing a rehab stint. He's on his way back. I think that's where they were saying the possibility of seeing John Kenzie sent back to Columbus.
And then do you put Lane in right field and let Angel Martinez stay in center because he's having a nice season?
Oh, yeah, I could certainly see that. I would be fine with that. I think you keep that combo in the outfield along with Quan and left. Do you think Rocchio's ever going to make it back up from the minors?
He could. They say most people need 1 or 2 stints back in the minors after getting some major league experience to get better. Ramirez did. Ramirez went down, 3 times back in 2014, 15? Before in 16, he was an everyday player. So I could see him coming back. I'm glad they sent him back down. Schneeman's doing nice, by the way, too. So
he really is. I don't know what Detroit is doing. We've got a 4-game set in Motown, and they need to split that.
Yeah, what are we, 6.5 games back right now? You can't.
as of this moment, we're 6 back. I think that's everybody's played today. So we are 6 back, 5 in the loss column. But I think I guess at the end of the day, my question to you is this: are you feeling like where we're at right now, there's a path where they could pick it up and eventually make the postseason and do some damage or be a legitimate contender?
Oh, absolutely. 100% think there's a chance. I mean, they're right in the thick of it right now. Because if you're just even to look at the league, I know it's still early. You got Detroit running away with it.
Yeah.
The Yankees are number 2 at 3.5 games. Well, essentially, we're a half game out of a wild card spot right now.
We're right
and
there.
The team in front of us are Minnesota and Kansas City, who we're going to play a ton in the regular season. So, I think we're right in the thick of it to at least get a wild card spot or make the playoffs.
Yeah, they've got some work to do. They've got it'll be good to get some arms back, get a couple bats back, and see how that all plays out. David Fry, if he comes along, I mean, he can't play in the field. He's a DH. So that creates a bit of a conundrum. Is he like going to be a DH or he's going to be a DH or a pinch hitter, which is fine. But you don't want to have like him DH and take away at bats from Manzardo.
Yes.
That makes sense.
It does. He's a good insurance policy to have in case like Santana, gets old and just stops hitting. But he's having a nice season too.
He's playing what he usually does. It's not phenomenal, but he's solid. He's consistent. I don't mind that. I really don't mind that. I'm still looking for, and I think everybody was hoping that like John Kenzie could be that power hitter, that we've been looking for since like Manny Ramirez and Albert Bell, and to an extent Juan Gonzalez and Dave Justice.
Yep.
And we just haven't had that. So I don't know. It's been rough. It's been a little tough, but I think now that Cavs season is done, focus on the Guardians and they've got a good month or two here where they kind of have the spotlight, June and part of July, because then football starts ramping up. And of course, that'll be the talk of the town. Unless, of course, the Guardians are really on a roll and they will stay in the spotlight. So I think we've covered a lot here, but I just want to know from you, Mike, what has you going nuCLEar this week?
So I'm going to have to go back to the Cavs. But this one specifically is Tyrese Halliburton. Did you see after Game 5? Now, granted, we were 0-3 at home to the Pacers. But after the game was over, the cameras panned to him, and he did the little, like, waving bye-bye to the crowd. And to me, that just shows no class. You were the underdogs. You beat the favorites on their home court. Have a little bit of humility and don't act like a jackass. And I just think I don't like it. It's not a good look. If you want to be a superstar in this league, which I don't think he is, then show a little class. You would never see a LeBron do something like that. The worst he did was after a playoff loss, he didn't shake hands with the other team or something like that. And everybody was up in arms about that. I don't like it. It's just a bad look for anybody.
No, I'm right there with you. But let me ask you this, because if this changes your opinion of him, did you see the story about the Indiana Pacers fan? I don't know why, but he was at the New York Knicks game against the Celtics, apparently, if I'm getting all this timeline correct. And he was wearing a Pacers jersey, and they threw trash at him, like a bag of garbage at the guy. It was caught on video. Halliburton reached out to him. They found him. He's like a firefighter in Indianapolis or in the area, and has gotten him tickets and everything to come to the game in Indiana.
That's good. He could still show class after
the
game, but I'm sure he's not a bad person.
I understand
that one act that
I understand what you're saying. I think that's a lot of professional athletes these days. They do that kind of stuff. Although Tim Couch did wave goodbye in Baltimore.
I'm pretty sure I liked that at the time. So
I'm
a little biased.
Okay, that is fair enough. So what has me going nuCLEar is not sports related, even though there are many things in sports that we talk about in general that could have me going nuCLEar. It is the people who ignore signs that say no soliciting. How are you going to, we got a sign in the right there at the sidewalk, no soliciting. In the past week, I've had 2 chuckleheads come up to my door bothering me. First, I got some clown who's like coming up, hey, we're over there. We did this guy's roof. There's been some hail damage, and you can just turn it in the insurance. We'll send it. I said, what hail damage are you talking about? Well, it could even be just a minute. I'm like, what are you? What kind of scam are you running? Get out. Get out. I'm too nice. Emily tells me I'm too nice. She would have slammed the door. You see it? No soliciting. Get out. Go away. I humor the people, I don't
you're a
know.
nice guy.
I try to be okay. And then I get some other clown who's coming up here like, oh, we're treating a person's lawn in the neighborhood. Would you like it? No. And I guess I said to her, oh, I guess I'm gonna have to get a bigger no soliciting sign. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see that.
It's only a suggestion, no soliciting.
Right. Yeah, I forgot. I just, please leave me alone. Like, the people bother me on my cell phone. I'm getting random text messages about something. I'm getting ridiculous mail. Go away. Just leave me alone. I've got enough to deal with. I'm done with this stuff. So the lack of people obliging by the nicest of wishes to not be bothered and ignoring that is what has me going nuclear this week.
Fair enough.
So 2 things. One is, first of all, folks, thank you for tuning in tonight. Really appreciate that. Be sure to check out all of the podcasts as part of the Fanatical Elves Network. Check out this YouTube channel for Going nuCLEar. Check out all of the social media feeds, like, subscribe, and tell your friends. If you've missed an episode, you can go on the streaming platforms where all your podcasts are, like Odyssey and Spotify and your Apple Podcasts, and you can play the audio of our shows while you're driving in the car, if you're at the gym, whatever the case may be. Give us a listen. There are a lot of great people, a lot of excellent programming, guests, and differing opinions and points of view. And then the other thing is, so Mike, we're going to take a little break here. You've got stuff going on, but we will be back after a little bit of vacation, and I will plan to be here. Might have some people rolling in, some guest spots here. But Mike, as always, I want to say this to everybody out there that's watching and listening, how much I appreciate you, and thank you for doing this with me. This is an honor and a pleasure to work with you. You make this a lot of fun. So I wanted to give you that heartfelt thanks here.
Well, thanks, Ethan. I appreciate you inviting me on in the first place, too. It's been a lot of fun doing this over the last year or two. So really appreciate you putting up with my crazy schedule, too.
Hey, that's life. And that's, that's what good friends and good people do. They work on these things. It's fantastic. So with that, we're going to bid you adieu, folks. Be sure to tune into all the programs. I'll be on tomorrow night with Heather doing the best doggone podcast in the land. Be sure to tune into that and everything else. So for Mike Rasinski, I'm Ethan Greenberg. You have been tuned in to Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land here on the Fanatical Elves Network, a part of Fans First Sports Network. Good night.